Please state your name.
Tommie Douglas Benefield, Jr.,
How do you spell your names?
Tommie Douglas Benefield, Jr. for Jr.
And what was your relationship to the deceased Doug Benefield?
First cousins.
And how close were you?
We were close our entire lives, and I was instrumental in him going into the Navy when I was in the Navy. Both naval officers, both flying off aircraft carriers, both did other work for the government, and then all the way through his business career and his dual career in the government and in private. Probably talked weekly to monthly, depending upon the times of our lives.
Okay.
I visited his family multiple times in Charleston.
And let me just ask
yes,
you,
ma'am.
before he died, where did he live?
Well, he was in an apartment down here at the very end.
But before he moved to Florida, where did he live?
Charleston, South Carolina, 701 Preservation Place.
Okay. And where do you live now?
I split time between Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. My wife and I have a spa business in Atlanta, Georgia, and I work 2 weeks a month in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Okay. And what is your job?
I'm a flight instructor for Hawaiian Airlines, teaching pilots in a particular airplane.
So let me ask you a little bit about Doug. At the time that he was murdered, how old was he?
He was just 1 week short of 59. He's born October 5th, 1961.
And how tall was Doug?
5'9", 5'10".
How much did he weigh?
I'd say 160 to 170.
And you already said before he moved to Florida, he lived near Charleston, South Carolina?
In Mount Pleasant, a suburb on the north side of the river.
Okay. And just before he moved down here to Florida, who did he live with in the house?
Just Eva and himself, except for the time that Ashley was living there previously.
So you said Eva. Who's Eva?
Eva is his biological daughter, first daughter, with his longtime wife, Renee.
And how old was Eva at around this time?
15, I believe.
So a teenager.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you first meet Ashley?
I had an overnight. I was flying for Southwest Airlines, had a change in a schedule. They sent me to Charleston, just me, not the rest of the crew, to take a plane into Charleston. And I texted Doug and said, hey, I'm going to be in Charleston tonight. Let's go to dinner. He texted back, great. April 14th, 2017 was the date.
You seem to remember dates well.
I have a very good memory, ma'am.
Okay. So you remember the exact date was April 14th?
Yes, ma'am, and I keep a diary and a flight log, so I know exactly when it was.
Okay. So did you in fact meet up with Doug?
Yes, when I got into Charleston, ahead of the hotel, I texted Doug again, and he said, Ashley's not feeling well. Could you take Uber up to Mount Pleasant to the house?
Overruled.
Did you know who Ashley was?
I had never heard of Ashley at that time.
Okay. So he spoke it like you knew who she was?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take an Uber to their house?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you got to the house, did you meet Doug
I met Doug and Ashley together.
and Ashley? Okay. Was that the first time you'd ever met the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak with both of them together about their relationship and how they met? I'm assuming you were basically like, who are you?
We spent 4 hours together.
Okay.
We started at the house. I got her short life story, their life story together at that time.
So their life story together at that time, did they say how long they had known each other before they got married?
Yes, ma'am. It was almost a sense of pride for both of them that they had only known each other 13 days.
Okay. And how old was Ashley at the time?
At that time, Doug was 54 and she was 24, I believe.
So a 30-year difference
Yes, ma'am.
between them. Did and I think you already answered this earlier, but did Eva live in the house with the two of them?
Yes, she did.
Did the defendant ever mention that she had a job?
No, ma'am, it was only past history stuff and what she was doing temporarily in the 2016 timeframe.
Was she interested in the ballet?
Yes, ma'am. She was a former ballet dancer. And by this time, they talked about the American National Ballet they had founded in February.
So let me stop you
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
So was Doug interested in the ballet?
The way a husband is, proud of his wife, supportive, knew nothing about the ballet except its existence, I think, prior to that.
And prior to this meeting with Ashley and all this, had he ever expressed any interest in the ballet?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you mentioned February. So they started a ballet in February?
So there's an old ballet that was defunct called the American National Ballet. When Ashley wanted to start a ballet and make this a special ballet, a diverse, non-judgmental, non-stereotyping ballet, Doug found a name and found an old ballet, and that's, I believe, February 27th of 2017 is when they founded it on paper.
So a couple of months
I'm
before
sorry,
you met?
Suzanne. Continuing relevancy objection, I don't want to keep interrupting.
Understood.
So you mentioned that was February of 17, so that was roughly 2 months
Yes, ma'am.
before you met Ashley. And how was the ballet being paid for? Did they discuss that with you?
Doug did. They both did.
Okay. Ashley did as well?
She talked about it.
Yes.
She understood what Doug was having to do to raise money and to put money personally into it. Doug was very, very good in all his businesses about doing the founding paperwork and establishing an LLC. And he had done the same with the ballet. He had built a website, just typical of Doug, to build it all himself from scratch.
And you said he put his money into it.
I know he put his money all the way till he ran out.
And then did he also have other money?
There were investors, including his business partners and other donors through the process. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it was actually formed in February of 17, but was there like a formal launch of the
So
ballet?
the night I spent with them, they talked about the upcoming events. There was an informal launch in May. There was a formal big donor party that I was a part of, brought all my business partners, a lot of veterans that I work with, to a McKee House event in August, I believe 12th of 2017. So that's the ballet that I learned when the event was coming out, and planned on being there and bringing all my people.
Okay. During this time, 2017, at some point, did Ashley and Doug decide that they were going to have a child or try to have a child?
That wasn't a part of that first meeting night.
Right.
We talked about everything else and caught up on everything that we hadn't known. But it wasn't a part of that night. We ended up leaving the house, going back to my hotel, having dinner together. I'm a master trainer in a medical device. It's a pain relief device. It helped her, helped him. And then they headed back home that evening, but there wasn't any talk that evening about having a child.
Was there talk later on, specifically with the defendant, about a child?
Certainly. Vasectomy reversal is a very intrusive surgery for men. And when they made the decision they were going to do that, he and I talked about it at the time, in particular because of my medical device background, that could help him.
Okay. So they decided as a couple that they were going to have this vasectomy reversal to try and have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did the defendant in fact get pregnant that year?
He had the vasectomy reversal, and 3 months later, she got pregnant, I believe, because we talked about it later, that the conception date was July 10th of 2017.
And at some point shortly after that, did she move away from their home in South Carolina?
Yes, so August 12th is when we had the McKee House event, the big donor event, introducing the other members of the staff of the ballet and everyone involved. Ashley and her mother Alicia were there. I was there. And 2 weeks later, I believe on the 26th or 27th, they made the decision together that it would be better for her because of her morning sickness to go live with her mother, because Doug traveled for work and was busy, and that was what was presented to me by both of them.
And her mother lived in
Lakewood Village here in the Sarasota-Bradenton area.
Florida? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so shortly after that, did Ashley move?
I believe on the 27th of August, because Doug called me both on the way down and the way back.
Did he help her move?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Did he move with her?
No, ma'am.
He stayed in South Carolina?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was August of 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the ballet eventually go under? And when?
So the ballet opening, the actual launch to the public, was September 18th of 2017. That's a landmark date in this case in my history, because it's the date Ashley and her mother went back in the house and got her stuff, and she filed against him.
Okay, we're not
I'm
going to talk
sorry.
about all of that.
I'm sorry.
So shortly after this whole time, we're going to skip ahead, did the ballet eventually collapse completely?
Yes, ma'am. I'll answer it more directly. I apologize.
That's okay.
So they launched it publicly on September 18th. The biggest performing arts center in Charleston is called the Gaillard Center, Big Performing Arts Center. And they actually held an opening performance on December 7th of 2017. And the dancers had been paid through December 15th. And by the end of the month, everything was finished.
Okay, so by the end of December 2017,
Everything's done.
it was defunct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. During the time that you encountered Doug and Ashley together and talking to Doug, how did he act about Ashley?
He was completely in love, completely supportive, starstruck, visibly, physically. You could tell by the way he treated her, took care of her on the opening night that I met him, met her, and then it continued through the entire relationship until I never saw them together after the separation.
Okay. And when was that?
Well, physically, August 27th of 2017, when he drove her down.
So you never saw them together after that? That you can remember?
Well, I'll leave a caveat on that. I spent a weekend down here with Doug, Ashley, her mother, spent one night in the home where Doug was killed or murdered. And I don't remember that date. It could have been after the separation, probably was, but I just don't remember that date. But that would have been the only time that I saw them together after that August 27th period.
Thank you. I have no other questions. The defense will probably have
Okay.
some questions. Thank you.
Cross?
Thank you, Judge.
And let me just say, I completely understand that, based on my evidentiary ruling so far, how do I say this? I know you probably wouldn't have asked a bunch of questions, but certainly for your cross-examination and any proffers of cross, I understand it's going to be broader than what it might have been.
Maybe not.
All right, maybe not. And please, sir, feel free to, you can question from either podium, wherever you feel more comfortable.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Benefield. I'm Neil Taylor. I'm appearing on behalf of Ashley Benefield. I regret that I meet you under these circumstances.
I understand, Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
You were a pilot,
Yes, sir, still am.
and consistent with being a pilot and listening to you and your detailing of events and dates and times, it's pretty stereotypical of the discipline that a pilot generally brings to their profession. Would you agree?
Yes, sir, you want the best people up front that work like I do.
All right, and you've told us that as a first cousin, you were very close with Doug Benefield.
Yes, sir, I was closer with Doug in our adult lives than my own brother, who was still alive at that time.
All right. Now, Doug was not a pilot.
Yes, sir, he was.
Was a commercial pilot?
No, sir, a Navy pilot.
Okay. Not a aviator, not like the second seat, but the actual pilot?
So in a multi-crew plane that he flew, the S-3 Viking,
Yes, sir.
he started out as a naval flight officer out of training, and then he became a second in command, which is like the first officer in the airline world, actually at the controls, and that's how he finished his flying career in that airplane. So he flew the plane, he flew in the front of the plane, and not always in that position.
Okay. Now, being as close as you were to him, you were aware, were you not, that he was an accomplished, among other things, martial artist?
I never saw that personally.
Were you aware of it?
I knew that he was a wrestler in high school.
Actually, he was on the judo team in high school, was he not?
Well, he was a state all-star wrestler, which is I'm very aware of, but I was not aware of the martial arts being a part of it.
So as close as you were, he never spoke to you about his accomplishments on the high school judo team
No, sir, more about the wrestling.
or his training in the military for martial arts.
He had the same training. The military doesn't train in martial arts.
Did he confide in you the training that he went through once he left the service through the private sector in conjunction with servicemen, both active and retired?
Not specifically, because we don't talk about that stuff if we're in really special programs.
Okay. Tell us about the physical condition Doug Benefield was in. He was built pretty well, was he not?
He was in terrible condition the night I met Ashley. He was in pain from his ejection from an airplane in the Navy that led to back surgery that year in 2017. He was not in good condition at that time. He became in good condition after he bought the device that I am a master trainer in, and it brought him back to health.
Yeah.
He was in very good condition when he was regularly going to the CrossFit. I'm sorry, I don't mean CrossFit. Some fitness facility called Iron Tribe, which is a Christian-based workout facility. And I believe the last pictures of him on Facebook are in that gym. He was in very good shape at the end.
You saw the pictures?
Yes, sir, I've seen the pictures.
Okay. And they accurately depict the shape that he was in at the time of his demise?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, you've told us that he was, I think the words that you used, Mr. Benefield, was starstruck with my client, Miss Benefield.
Yes, sir, I would say that.
You're married,
Yes, sir.
happily so.
Very happy.
How many years?
Just over 4.
All right. Do you own a weapon, a firearm?
Objection relevant.
I'll overrule.
I own firearms, but I do not have a concealed carry permit like they did.
All right, and you're familiar with firearms from your time in the Navy, I trust.
Less from the Navy than after.
Okay. Have you ever fired a firearm inside your home? Intentionally?
Not intentionally or unintentionally.
Did your cousin Doug ever tell you that he admitted to firing?
Objection, Judge. This is part of what we were not going to get into.
So the objection is relevance?
The objection is relevance and that there were certain complaints that this defendant made against the victim that were denied by Judge Moreland in a hearing, and this is one of those.
Okay. So is there a written agreement not to get into this and that written agreement delineates everything?
No,
Or is
but
this?
I thought we were not going to get into the specifics about other than it was shooting into the ceiling.
Yeah, I intend to stay within the four corners of my motion, but I think it's fair cross-examination based on what he's testified to, his intimate knowledge of Douglas Benefield.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the agreement was to get into or not get into. I don't know what the relevance of this is going to be. It may be relevant, it may not. But again, I don't have to unring a bell with a jury here. So for now, I'll allow it.
Thank you.
I may decide later it's completely
Understood.
irrelevant. I don't know.
Understood. May I?
Yes.
Have you ever fired a firearm inside your home intentionally?
No, sir.
Have you ever considered firing a firearm inside your home intentionally to intimidate your wife?
Objection, relevance of this question.
Hold on. Let the question finish. Let the question finish. Go ahead. But,
Thank you.
sir, hold on. There's going to be an objection.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and finish your question.
To intimidate your wife into not speaking any further?
Go
And
ahead.
what is the relevance of whether he
I just need objection, relevance, sustained.
Did your cousin ever share that with you?
My
Objection,
cousin,
hearsay.
Overruled.
my cousin admitted both privately.
Is the answer yes?
I would like to answer your question and be very accurate, sir, like I've been all along.
I understand, however, Mr. Benefield, this is
Yes, sir.
cross-examination.
Yes, sir. He inadvertently fired a gun in his home.
No, he testified under oath that he intentionally fired.
Objection, is there a question?
Improper impeachment. Go ahead, sir.
Did
Sustained.
he ever acknowledge to you that he intentionally fired the weapon?
No, sir, he did not.
Did he ever tell you that he threw a loaded gun at Miss Benefield?
Perhaps we talked about that. I don't remember that specific event like I remember the inadvertent firing.
Did he ever acknowledge to you that he punched the dog in the face so hard that it rendered the dog unconscious?
That's not what happened in his story to me.
Were you there?
No, sir. You asked me if I talked to him.
Did he ever acknowledge to you that he punched the dog in the face so hard that it knocked the dog out?
He admitted hurting the dog, but that's not a detail I remember.
Is the answer to my question no or yes?
Would you restate the question, please?
Did he ever admit to you punching the dog in the face so hard that it knocked the dog unconscious?
No, sir.
Did he ever tell you that he regularly carried a loaded firearm?
Of course.
All right. And to be clear, it was a firearm that was also cocked. All that was necessary was to pull the trigger.
I don't remember that detail, but I'm sure that he carried it appropriately or he wouldn't have carried it.
Okay. You don't know whether he carried it racked or not?
No, sir.
Did he acknowledge to you that he placed a tracker on Miss Benefield's car?
No, sir.
Did he acknowledge to you that he was caught at night by a neighbor peering into Miss?
Objection, Judge. Counsel is testifying just to find out if this witness has the information.
Correct.
If he
So-
wants to call a witness, fine.
Your Honor, he's testified.
Hold on. The way cross-examination works.
Yes, sir.
Is that the attorney is allowed to ask his question.
Yes, sir.
generally it's gonna be yes or no. If you can agree with it, you agree with it, and then you agree with it in total,
Or not?
or no.
Yes, sir.
And if it's a question about, do you know, you know or you don't.
Yes, sir.
And State, I understand what you're saying on the council's testifying. That's another issue, obviously, if there was a jury here and so forth. With me, I'm not going to be influenced by the question. The witness can say, yes, that's true, or no, it's not. I know that, I don't know that. So go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Did he admit to you and acknowledge that he was caught by a neighbor of Miss Benefield's at night, standing in the neighbor's yard, peering into Miss Benefield's window?
I don't remember that from him.
Is that something that you think you'd recall?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that you would expect of the Douglas Benefield that you knew as well as you did?
It's a possibility, not a regular habit of his.
Did he acknowledge to you, Mr. Benefield, punching holes in the drywall of their home out of anger?
I'm aware of one, not many.
And finally, did he acknowledge to you beating up his first wife, Renee, on their honeymoon?
I'm not aware of that.
When he lived here in Bradenton, Mr. Benefield, I want to be clear about something. At no time, to your knowledge, did he live in the same residence as Miss Benefield?
I know that they were on the lease together in the final apartment, but I don't know if they ever were in the apartment together, but they were on the lease together.
Okay, so my question to you is, did he reside in a separate apartment here in Bradenton?
He had an apartment in Bradenton. Yes, sir.
I don't believe I have anything further on.
Yes, sir. Redirect.
Your Honor, give me one moment.
Yes, I was going to say, if you need a moment, go ahead and do
Yes.
that. Hold on one second.
Your Honor, something for the court to consider at a later time. If the court would take a look at 90-806 of the Florida Evidence Code regarding hearsay, it states that once hearsay has been admitted and allowed by the court, the opposing party is entitled to move into evidence any testimony of the witness referred to, the non-testifying party, that exists. So in other words, during the state's examination of Mr. Benefield, wherein hearsay statements were allowed, the defense is entitled under 806 to move into evidence the entire statements of any prior statements made by Mr. Benefield, the deceased. If the court would take a look at that rule, I'll address it later on.
Okay, so the doctrine of completeness? The doctrine of completeness?
Yeah.
For that particular, each particular statement?
It's actually separate from the doctrine of completeness, but pretty much the same thing. It basically says when hearsay is allowed, the hearsay statement in any capacity or any statement of the non-testifying witness may be admitted into evidence by the adverse side.
I guess it'll just depend on what the statement is and when it was made and the relevance and, sure,
Yes, I'll address it with the court at a later.
okay. Yes, ma'am, redirect.
Just for the record, Judge, I completely disagree that that's what 9806 says. And in my direct examination of Mr. Benefield, I was very specific to only get Ashley's comments, not Doug Benefield's comments with reference to hearsay. So just, that would be my response to that. So the defense asked you about this punching a dog issue?
Yes, sir.
And-
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that's not the story I got. What was the story you got?
The story I got was that Doug was sitting on one of his chairs with an ottoman. He always wore short shorts, bare-legged sandals, just like the night he was killed. And the dog jumped up in his lap because the dog was I picked up the dog after his killing, so I'm very familiar with Sully. Big dog, big nails, jumped up in his lap. And he was frustrated, and it hurt. Aggressively pushed is what he told me.
Okay.
He admitted that was more than he wanted to do to the dog, but it was due to his frustration at the time. He pushed the dog off of his lap because it was cutting into his legs.
So at no time did he say he punched a dog?
No, ma'am.
At no time did he say that the dog went unconscious?
No, ma'am.
And the defense asked you if you were aware if Doug told you that he put a tracker on the defendant's car. Were you aware of that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. The defense also asked if you knew about Doug punching a hole in the wall.
I knew about one punch.
And what was the reason for that punch?
Frustration.
The defense asked you if Doug regularly carried a firearm. Did Ashley regularly carry a firearm?
Even the first night she met him in front of Secret Service in the area. Yes, ma'am.
So did she have a concealed weapons permit?
I understand she does.
And did Doug have a concealed weapons?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
All right. Did you have any further questions before we let this witness go?
Yes, one. Mr. Benefield, where did you obtain the explanation about what happened to Sully by your cousin?
Both from Ashley and Doug.
Runner, now, again, I would direct the court's attention to 806. And briefly, if I may, Your Honor, I'll read to the court why I believe it's appropriate. Attacking and supporting credibility of declarant. When a hearsay statement has been admitted in evidence, credibility of the declarant may be attacked, and if attacked, may be supported by any evidence that would be admissible for those purposes if the declarant had testified as a witness. Evidence of a statement or conduct by the declarant at any time inconsistent with the declarant's hearsay statement is admissible, regardless of whether or not the declarant has been afforded an opportunity to deny or explain it. Okay, so I think any statement inconsistent with this witness's repetition of a hearsay statement by Douglas Benefield is admissible. And I would suggest that the exhibits to our stand your ground motion clearly apply to that.
I don't know which exhibits we're talking about.
I don't either. And Judge, I would argue that the only person that elicited hearsay was defense counsel. So defense counsel cannot elicit hearsay and then try to impeach the hearsay that he elicited. So I would object and disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't know, what are we,
Judge, Your Honor may recall that during the direct examination by Ms. O'Donnell, Mr. Benefield related conversations that took place with the deceased, Douglas Benefield. And specifically, there was a hearsay objection, the court overruled it and allowed it. That opens the door to 806, Your Honor.
right, I didn't hear argument on it. Which specific statement was it?
I believe, among other things, Mr. Benefield testified to everything relating to the ballet. I believe he testified to statements about how enamored Douglas Benefield, the deceased, was with Ashley Benefield. Those hearsay statements alone, Your Honor, open the door to 806 so that any statement by Douglas Benefield that is inconsistent with that testimony is admissible.
I don't
That's
remember
rule.
I don't remember any statements where, you know what, this will probably be better, sir. We're talking about your testimony.
It's okay.
I'm going to excuse you to the
Yes, sir.
hallway.
No worries.
The rule of sequestration has been invoked.
Yes, sir.
That's a rule here in the state of Florida, probably other places too, that says once you're called as a witness, you're summoned as a witness, you're not to discuss your testimony, the questions asked, the answers given with anyone at all until you're released from your subpoena or the hearing or the proceeding is concluded.
Yes, sir.
So that rule has been invoked. So when you're outside, you can't talk to anybody.
Yes, sir. I understand the rule and I'll follow it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure.